It is my distinct pleasure to introduce today's commencement speaker, Rand Morimoto, a member of St. Mary's Board of Trustees and a highly respected international technology executive. Trustee Morimoto shares a distinct commonality with you. He is a proud St. Mary's alumnus, having earned his MBA in business management in 1993. He sat where you are sitting right now and understands all too well the joy and excitement that is the culmination of the dedication and hard work put forth to complete your graduate degree. Trustee Morimoto is the consummate businessman and entrepreneur and has been in the computer industry for more than 40 years. He is founder, president, and chief executive officer of the technology and strategy consulting firm Convergent Computing, with offices in Walnut Creek, Singapore, and Tokyo. Known as a thought leader in cybersecurity and information technologies, Trustee Morimoto travels the world to speak at conventions and conferences and with companies and governments about how to best leverage technology in today's challenging times by driving true IT transformation. He is also considered a pioneer in architecting and implementing technologies that help organizations improve business efficiencies through their use of technologies that create a competitive advantage in their operations. In short, his business helps other businesses drive success through the use of innovative technologies. Trustee Morimoto has also put pen to paper and is the author of numerous books on technology, averaging 2 books per year. His award-winning publications include books on Windows 2000, Security Exchange 2000, BizTalk Server, remote and mobile computing, and many more. He also writes articles for several publications and is the author of a technology and strategy blog named Rand's Blog. Trustee Morimoto has been a personal advisor to the White House on cybersecurity and cyber-terrorism during the Clinton, Bush, and Obama administrations. He has served on the board for the Chabot Space and Science Center and the Institute of International Education. He currently serves on the Research Council Board for the Institute of Human Origins at Arizona State University and is an active volunteer with the Boy Scouts of America. Trustee Morimoto received his BA in political economics from UC Berkeley in 1987, an MBA from St. Mary's, and a PhD in organizational behavior in 2004 from Capella University. Morimoto was a regent for St. Mary's from 2003 to 2010, and in 2018 was recognized as the college's Alumnus of the Year. He was elected to the St. Mary's Board of Trustees in 2010 and currently serves as the chair of the Academic Affairs and Enrollment Committee of the board. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome St. Mary's trustee, Rand Morimoto.
Good morning, and thank you very much, and congratulations. As President Donahue asked me to be the commencement speaker, I was trying to think, what would I talk about? You are in a group of 21, 22-year-olds that this is your first time out of school. I'll say, go out and get a job and do a great job. I mean, I sat there. I know I was working. I had a family. I had a lot of things going on. And so I was thinking, what should I be able to talk about? And so I thought back to things of, well, when I was there 26 years ago, my life was very different. I was running a business. I did my MBA to be able to get more skills to be able to run my business. But I was not really in the same place. All the things, all the fancy stuff of advising the presidents and stuff wouldn't have even been in part of my communications of things that I did. And so I thought back of what was my commencement like. And I thought about one thing that the commencement speaker talked about. He said, think of what you're going to do after you leave today. And I'm like, I've been spending months doing school. Let's see, I got the faucet in the back sink that I got to fix that I've been putting off. The gardening hasn't been done in 6 months. In the last 30 days, last projects, I mean, I haven't seen my family, I haven't seen my friends. So I knew exactly what I was going to do after I finished, right? You got all those honey-do lists of things to do. But then the commencement speaker went on, and he said, no, not that. It's what is something that you learned here that will change, you'll be able to change your life and do things that will be different in the future. And when I was thinking back, it's like all the things that I've done in the last 26 years, it comes back to a point of here at St. Mary's, I found my voice. I was able to communicate after I left here. Because before I came to St. Mary's College, I went to a large university, I went to a large high school. I always was the person that was quiet. I hid behind the person in front of me. I never really wanted to be called on in school. You would have never caught me up front here talking because I would have been petrified and scared to death. And the difference was when I was here at St. Mary's, and as a lot of the professors and brothers who were here remember me, I was the quiet one. But you don't get to do that here at St. Mary's. Smaller class sizes, you're sitting around, you talk, you have to present, you have to communicate. And so I went from this person that always had the opportunity to hide to the ability to stand out and actually talk and speak. And so I said that day to myself, I'm going to learn how to be able to get in front of a group of people and talk. I'm going to be able to try to communicate. I think that will help my business to be able to go out and talk about my company. Well, I left graduation, a couple of months passed, I took care of all those things that I had to be able to do. But then I was volunteering at the Alumni Association one day, and I met another one of the students, one of my cohort members, and he said, so what's your one thing? I said, what one thing? He goes, remember graduation, that one thing that you said you were going to do? I'm like, I haven't done anything with that. He said, well, I speak at this Chamber of Commerce meetings. Let me bring you along. And he lined me up, and I spoke at a Chamber of Commerce meeting, 25, 30 people. Frightened to death. I couldn't sleep the night before. I was standing up front and kind of shaking, as I always had used to speak and be afraid. But I did it. And then somebody at the Chamber of Commerce said, well, would you come and speak at the Rotary Club? And I'm like, sure. So I spoke there, another 20, 30 people, and I got more comfortable with it. One of my cohort members said, well, why don't you speak at a technology conference? You're in the tech industry. And I said, okay, well, how does one do that? And he walked me through the process of being able to sign up and be able to speak at a conference. And now, all of a sudden, I was speaking in front of 50 people, 80 people about the technology of stuff. And I was finding that, wow, it's actually not that bad once you do it. And I was now speaking every month someplace around technology. And I was feeling a little bit more comfortable about it. And one of these speaking gigs, I was speaking at the government conference. Vice President Al Gore was there. And we had about a half hour before the speaking gig. And I was talking to him, and he said, what do you know about Y2K? So this is in the mid-90s. And I shared with the vice president, I shared with the vice president what I knew about Y2K, and he said, would you like to be an advisor to the President of the United States? And I'm like, sure. Didn't know what that meant, but I said, absolutely, I'll do that. And so for the next 3.5 years, I was traveling around the country talking about Y2K, preparing the United States. Now, of course, no planes fell out of the sky, and the power grid didn't die. But I was thinking at the time that I was doing this whole Y2K, and we were connecting computers to the internet to be able to patch them and update them. I said, one of these days, somebody can go through and use that to get access to our systems and hack our computer systems. So I wrote a book on cybersecurity and cyber-terrorism. And the book had mixed reviews, because some people say, yeah, well, that security stuff is important. But you got to remember back in those days is that there was not a lot of computer usage. And I even wrote in the book, there is an opportunity that the Russians can actually connect in and change our elections. 1999. I love the Mueller report. It came back, and finally, 20 years later, I was able to say, see, there is that opportunity. Only takes 20 years for something that I do to actually have an accomplishment. So a couple of months later, I got a call from the President Bush, and will you be an advisor cybersecurity to the White House? And I said, sure. Didn't know what that meant. But I took it on, and it meant flying to Washington, D.C. every week. And so I flew to Washington, D.C., and I advised the president. At the same time, one of my cohort members was on the Board of Regents, said, would you join the Board of Regents at St. Mary's? I said, sure. Didn't know what that meant, but I went ahead and did that for 8, 9 years. I joined the board for the Chabot Space and Science Center because one of my friends, I knew I was interested in sciences, and that was a great gig to be able to lead building of sciences and astronomy. And then one of the people on the board of Chabot was a member of the Fulbright Scholars organization, and she said, would you like to join the Institute of International Education's board? I said, sure. Why not? And so I went on to be able to lead at the Fulbright Scholars organization. I always used to say yes to things. Maybe that's maybe the biggest mistake I've made. But through all of that, it's just the building up of, it all started here, 26 years ago, trying to figure out what am I going to do? And I thought I was at the peak of my life. I had everything. I had my education. I had the opportunity to be able to go out and build my business, but I changed it by being able to communicate and change things. And so the 4 things that I think about as I kind of wrap up here is that there's 4 C's I always think about. One is credentials. You've done that. That's what you're here to do. You get that diploma, you get that certificate to say you completed that education and you have that knowledge. The second piece is communications, as I've shared with you, is that just because you have the knowledge, if you don't go out and share it with people, it's just sitting in your head. So you have to be able to take that out and be able to share that wisdom and information that you have with people. The third thing is around contacts. And I couldn't have done everything that I've done if people didn't go through and grab me and say, hey, Rand, come and do this with me. Rand, come join me. Do that. Help me help you through the way. So the contacts were important. And then the 4th C is community. It's the people that are around me. The things that I've done has been because I always said sure. I always said yes. I always volunteered, not really knowing and asking what am I going to get back from it, but really to be able to contribute. Come here to St. Mary's, be able to go help out in the communities. So credentials, communications, contacts, and community. So as I sat here 26 years ago, and it was the first day of this change that I have, I'm going to leave you with one thought and one challenge, is what is that one thing that you're going to do that can change your life, things that you are challenged with, you can overcome, that you'll come back 20 years from now and say, today was the first day of your new tomorrow. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Go Gales.
Thank you, Rand.